Hello, today we're going to be talking about relationship management, and I know this is a little bit vain, but this is one of the ugliest PowerPoints that I have ever made, and I don't know what I was thinking, and I need to redo it, so I just apologize for how visually offensive this PowerPoint is going to be. Orange, orange, what was I thinking? All right. So, during your business degree, you've probably heard the word businesses called organizations a lot, right? And you may not have stopped to wonder, what are they organizing? What a business is an organization of what? Businesses are organizations of human activity, of people, of behavior. Um, and it's people coordinating their effort to accomplish a greater goal than they could individually, right? That's what an organization is. And often when we think of organizations and the structure of organizations, we see them like this, where there's like a leader at the top and then this very clear power hierarchy. And that exists. That is the structure of formal authority within an organization. But another way to look at this, at the power structure of organizations, is like this. And there are all these informal social relationships that exist within organizations, right? You go to church with that person, you play golf with that person, that's your aunt's best friend from high school. And you have these social relationships with people, and oftentimes that's how things really get done in organizations, right? You are able to get the resources you need because you worked with that supervisor on a project and you guys worked really well together. And so she's hooking you up now. Or whatever it is, you've developed relationships with people. And so relationship management, being able to work effectively with people across the organization, is one of the most valuable skills you can have as a leader, as a coworker, just at all levels of an organization, to tap into this informal set of relationships, which is often more influential than the formal structure. We're going to talk about social awareness and relationship management today. Specifically, we're going to talk about the importance of coordinating moods. We'll talk about how to help other people regulate their emotions using the same recognize, relax, distract, problem solve method that we talked about in regard to self-regulation. We'll talk about the importance of establishing boundaries with people. And then we'll talk about the importance of developing social skills in others. First, we'll talk about the importance of coordinating moods. We like to think of ourselves as like individual beings with our own will and like controllers of our own destiny. And we are, to a large extent we are. But humans are also fundamentally social animals. And so much of our lives and the way we think about our lives and the way we think about ourselves is influenced by the people that we interact with, and especially the emotions of the people that we interact with. Emotions ripple through a crowd, which you know if you've ever been to a concert or a football game, that emotions are contagious, they're shared to some extent. And what's kind of ironic is that even when intellectually we disagree with people, we're usually sharing a common emotional frame of reference. And what do I mean by that? What's an emotional frame of reference? It's the emotional relationship that we have towards the situation. So, for example, even when a conservative and liberal, when they're vehemently arguing against one another, they disagree with each other very much on the intellectual content of what they're saying. And yet emotionally, they have the exact same frame of reference, right? It's anger, it's fear, it's all these different things. The emotional frame, and that's the emotional frame, is how do the people in the situation feel about the situation? And even when there's disagreement at the intellectual level, there can often be vast agreement on the emotional level. And that's where you tap into people. Leaders and people that are just good at social influence are sensitive to and adept at influencing other people's emotional frame of reference. So they understand kind of at a crowd level, at a group level, what the emotional frame of reference is, and they're able to change that frame. And we'll talk about some techniques. How do you do that? One really potent tactic to change the emotional frame of reference is empathy. So people often come at us and they're angry, and they expect us, their emotional frame of the situation is hostility, aggression, conflict, anger, and they come at us with that anger. And we can do this kind of emotional judo where we listen to them and we have empathy, and by saying, oh, whoa, man, that sounds so hard, of course you're upset. We pivot the emotional frame of reference from one of conflict to one of sharing, understanding, whatever it is. And so that's why empathy can be a really powerful tool. If someone's coming at you with anger, with stress, with anxiety, just to listen to them and hear that will change the emotional content, emotional frame of reference of the interaction. Let me give you an example of this. This is kind of a superficial example, but I think it shows well what I mean by this. When I was in college, I was out late one night. Perhaps there had been some drinking involved. And it was like me and 3 or 4 of my friends were walking down the street at like 2 a.m. And this truck drives by us. It's got this huge lift on it and huge mud tires and rims, and it was even like spinners. Like back then, spinners were cool. Super like exhaust, and it goes peeling out by us. And my friend's like, "F you guys," and like screaming at him. And immediately the truck just slams on its brakes, and these 4 dudes hop out, and they're huge, and they're like, I don't know, maybe like 30 feet away from us, and they're walking towards us very menacingly. And my friends just kind of sit there like kind of slack-jawed. And in a moment of drunken brilliance, I was like, hey, hold on, guys, I got this. And I start walking towards the other guys, and I'm like, hey. And I finally get close, and I'm like, hey, man, your truck is so cool, dude. And like, can you show me all the modifications, man? I want something just like this. And like, it changes from this one of hostility, this emotional tone of hostility, to one of like, shared love or collaboration or admiration, right? And it like totally threw him off guard, right? The other guy was walking into this expecting a conflict, and we didn't see one. It was just this dramatic shift in the emotional frame of reference. And okay, so that's what good leaders do, is they don't force you to act a certain way. They don't say, do X, Y, Z. What they can do, what they're adept at doing, is creating a perspective in you, a relationship to the situation in you, where doing X, Y, Z seems like the only logical or reasonable thing to do. So they don't tell you what to do. They create a frame of reference where what they want you to do is the only sensible direction of action. And that's what I mean by controlling the emotional frame of reference. And that's why it can be so influential and so powerful. I think when the word charisma to me describes people who are adept at this quality, where charismatic people aren't, we usually think of them as charming, and they are often, but it's more about there's something compelling about them. There's something engaging about them where you want their attention, right? And the way I think they do this is by they're able to excite whatever emotion they want in us, right? Whether that's inspiration or anger, or whatever it is. And they're able to play with our emotions in such an influential and powerful way that they just become these compelling people to us. I don't know if you know who Tony Robbins is. Tony Robbins is a guy who I think is good at this. And like, he has this one talent where he's really good at influencing the emotions in a room, and there's like no substance to him, but he does inspirational speaking with like 30,000 people in an arena, and he's like able to influence them emotionally. And there's no substance. He has like a philosophy, but it's just like completely cliche, right? But he's able to inspire people and or influence people in this way. And I think he's made a whole career out of it. When we meet people who are really good at this, who are really good at capturing and holding our interest and kind of being able to play our emotions like a fiddle, it almost feels like magic, right? There's something magic about it where it's almost like they have this like superpower or something. But it's not. It's not magic. It's not a superpower. It's not some waves they're sending through the air or pheromones. It's behaviors. It's things that they are doing. Often stuff it's like mirroring, where they're doing a good job of either reflecting your emotions back to you. They build up this kind of mirroring rapport and then start being able to guide the emotions, empathic responses to what people are feeling. But regardless, it's not magic. It's all these different tactics. And the next time you meet someone who you have this feeling about, this person that you consider really charismatic or really charming, pay attention to them in a concrete way. And what is it exactly that they're doing that makes them so likable or so compelling? And I guarantee you that it is a behavior. It is something about them or something that they're doing that creates this emotion ability. So pay attention to how other people do it, and then you can learn to mimic that and try out these different tactics and see what works for you as well. But it is 100% something that can be learned and improved upon.